Good evening and welcome to Northbeat. I'm Shannon Scott. Megan Roberts is off this week. Fire season in the NWT doesn't officially start until Wednesday, but already 2 fires are burning in the territory. They're holdovers from last year and they've been smoldering under the snow near Fort Smith since last summer. And now people are on edge, nervous it will be another intense wildfire season. Carla Ulrich has our top story tonight.
SS001 and SS002, the very first wildfires in the NWT this season. They started over the weekend just north of Fort Smith. And while we can't see the smoke from the community, they are burning, spotted with infrared scans. And fire crews aren't wasting any time. They're moving fast to put these fires out.
It's roughly on the edges of fires that we saw burn last year. So, you know, it's a typical kind of forest you'd see around the Fort Smith area, mixture of evergreen forest and deciduous trees and the like. You know, again, this is happening, the burning is really happening in the soil largely. So our focus is on exposing that heat and dousing the flames, or dousing that heat to put out those smoldering fires there.
Last year's fire season also started with holdover fires in Fort Smith, and that's making residents nervous.
Well, the one across the river kind of concerns me. It's not that far away from my beautiful cabin out there. So I'm hoping that they're going to action that right away before my cabin gets in any kind of danger. So that's what I'm worried about. I lost one cabin in the ranch last year, but my main cabin I would like to keep for a little while.
As long as they're kept under control and hopefully you don't have to evacuate again, but as long as they keep them under control, I guess fire is always there every year, eh? So, but hopefully it's not like last year. So,
a little bit stressed, yeah, because last year we were out for a very long time and it was very stressful and very expensive. You know, I'm thinking of the animals of Fort Smith too, because I'm the president of the animal shelter. And I really would hope that people would be more mindful of their animals this year, because last year was very difficult. And some animals had to be left behind, and it was very stressful for some of the people that were looking after them, going home. The firefighters were going from home to home, feeding animals, and it was really hard on everybody.
Westwick says both fires are being managed and are under 2 hectares in size. He says there's currently no danger to the community, cabins, or other infrastructure. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
We heard a bit from Mike Westwick in Carla's story there. He was talking about the 2 fires burning in the South Slave region. He's here now live in studio to talk about the fire season more broadly. And Mike, I just want to touch on something I just heard in Carla's pack, which was the firefighters going around to feed people's pets last year. I guess your crews do more than just fight these fires.
Yeah, certainly we're there to help out, and where there's an opportunity to do things to help out a community in crisis, you know, we do take that opportunity too as well. We looked after some animals in Béchacon as well. I was there personally, and yeah, we do things to help people out.
I'm sure that those people who had the advantage of having you there are very appreciative. Let's start with these holdover fires, because the ones near Fort Smith were found, I understand, when your crews were doing infrared scanning. What else did they find?
Really, they just found those hot spots that we're now addressing as fires there. That was the key finding. You know, we use the infrared scanning, we use patrols, and we're taking action on those fires. 2 crews and a helicopter are working to expose that heat and really take care of those fires quickly.
Did you see holdover fires anywhere else? Can we expect more of these to pop up?
We don't have any new findings as yet. North Slave region, there was some scanning that was done that actually didn't show any on some of those, but we're going to be looking to follow up on those as well. They're pretty good at hiding sometimes, and we want to make sure that we're in a good position and on the front foot as we get going on the season. So we continue to search for those targets, and we'll certainly update people if we find them.
And they burn really deep underground. How do you action those fires? Are you just throwing water on them, or what are you doing?
Well, I mean, nature just already threw a bunch of water at them between the snow and the melt, right? And they're still there. So what you got to do is get in there. You got to dig it out using, you know, simple tools, shovels and Pulaskis, so that axe and the pick together, things like that. You can use any number of tools to expose that heat and then douse it with water once you've actually exposed that, because obviously nature wasn't able to snuff that out, so you got to take another step after that.
So as we mentioned, fire season officially starts May 1st. What are you expecting this fire season to be like?
Certainly our outlook points towards some challenging weather conditions. We didn't see enough snowpack and precipitation to alleviate the drought completely, particularly in the south of the territory and into the North Slave as well. A little bit more precipitation and snowpack in the Sahtu and Beaufort Delta areas, which is always good. We like to see moisture in the environment to kind of tamp down that activity. But the headline story is it's drying out really fast out there. Particularly in the south of the territory, and we are preparing for what could potentially be another season with some significant fire activity. And we've started our people and our aircraft earlier, as you can see with this work being done out there, to be ready to respond to that.
Is there an area of the territory that you're more concerned about compared to others?
I think that the south of the territory, certainly the South Slave, the Decho, certainly that's where we're seeing the most dryness, the driest conditions. Drier conditions mean more likelihood of fire for sure, but it really does stretch up throughout the territory. Even though we saw some more snowpack and precipitation in the Sahtu and the Beaufort Delta, it's eventually going to dry out. We're expecting through May and through June to be seeing not a whole lot of precipitation based on our outlooks right now. Obviously those things shift and evolve all the time, but that's kind of point in time where we're at right now. So the message to people is it's never too late to start preparing yourself throughout the season, and we need everybody's help in preventing adding those person-caused fires to that landscape as we move forward.
And we were speaking a little bit earlier today about those person-caused fires and the fire danger. We're not even at May yet, and we're seeing high to extreme fire danger in the Decho and the South Slave region. That, to me, that feels early, but I may have a wrong perception of these things. Is it early to be seeing fire danger that high this early?
It's not unheard of, but it certainly is a little bit earlier than we'd expect that to be happening. Partially driven by the quick melt. We're not seeing a whole lot of snow left on the ground in these regions, and certainly seeing that level of fire danger means that fires are easier to start and more likely to spread if they do. So people doing everything they can to prevent those fires from getting on the landscape is so important as we move through May.
So just because it's cool doesn't mean it's not dangerous out there for fires.
That's right. Even if it's a little bit chilly, even if you see ice on the water still. We had ice on the water when we were starting to battle that first fire in the Klondike First Nation Reserve in May, which those kinds of things you shouldn't be sinking into complacency just because it's a little chilly outside, just because there's still some ice on the water. If it's dry out there, it'll support fire. And May is usually our biggest month for person-caused fire before we really get into a more active lightning regime, usually later in May and into June. So a real challenge that I want to pass on to people is to make May a no person-caused fire month. That's going to help us be on the front foot in terms of preserving resources to respond to those natural fires that we really can't control, and just really help communities. It's you doing your part to manage wildfire in our territory and the risk to the people you care about.
So just quickly before we let you go, when we talk about person-caused fires, I'm sure some people picture, you've got a bonfire in your backyard and that takes over. What is the most common person-caused fire that we see in the territory?
Far and away, it's abandoned campfires. That's one of the key recreational activities that people do in the Northwest Territories, of course. It's important to all of our lives. But left unattended, they can become a big problem. The next most common is burning brush in backyards and things like that. People doing a good thing and burning off some debris that they might have been cleaning up, but maybe doing so in conditions that might have been too windy, might have been too extreme out there. So we encourage people to never leave their campfires unattended. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to be burning in your yard, you got to get a burn permit, and that might be from your community, or it might be from, if you're burning outside of community boundaries, it might be from your local environment and climate change office. Those permits are important not just as a piece of red tape, but because they give you mitigation considerations that you need to follow to make your burn a safe burn. So plan ahead and be aware that, if you got a windy day, those embers coming off your burn pile could get into the forest and cause a real problem.
All right, no person-caused fire may.
That's right.
I accept your challenge, Mike.
Thank you, and I hope everyone else does too. Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your kids, everybody.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Mike Westwick, who is a fire mitigation and prevention manager with the government of the Northwest Territories. Likely not the last time we will see him on the show in this fire season. Now, with this fire season upon us, many people are talking about emergency plans and what would happen if mass evacuations were once again needed. Shauna Morgan is the MLA for Yellowknife North. For her, the recent changes to the territorial emergency plan don't go far enough. The updated plan assigns responsibility for evacuations to community governments unless the evacuation proves more than they can handle. But Morgan says Yellowknife is home to half the territory's population and many government services. She expected the plan to have more details on how emergency responses would be coordinated between governments.
If there was another evacuation of Yellowknife, it would cause such upheaval, not just Yellowknife, but the entire territory, that in my view, this would automatically constitute some kind of, it would be a situation, if not an emergency for the territory, that from the beginning there should be close coordination and cooperation between the territorial level and the city level. And that should be planned out from the beginning, instead of imagining a case where somehow the city could just handle the whole thing until one day that, we need help, and then it would go to the GNWT to ask for help. To me, we need to plan out that coordination from the beginning and not just assume that the city's going to handle it. I think it would be more useful to recognize straight out of the gate that Yellowknife is almost half of the population of the territory and faces both different responsibilities as a local authority than many of the smaller communities, but also impacts on Yellowknife affect other communities in different ways. For example, Yellowknife is a hub for supply chains for food that flows through Yellowknife and is delivered to other communities. And we saw that last summer, right? That if things are disrupted because Yellowknife is disrupted, it has a ripple effect, and a serious one, on many other communities. And so if we don't take that into account in our plan and just pretend that all communities are created equal, then it's not going to be effective.
Morgan says she does see some improvements in the plan, and she's hopeful there will be more detailed scenarios in Yellowknife's new emergency plan, which is expected in June. Last week, Municipal Affairs Minister Vince McCay told CBC News he's confident in local authorities' ability to manage their own evacuations. He says if they find it's too much, they can ask the territorial government for help. In Dawson City, Yukon, a flood watch advisory that was issued for a section of the Klondike River last week is now a flood warning. The warning means the river has exceeded the banks, or it will soon. The area under advisory is from the Dredge Pond subdivision to the confluence where the Klondike River meets the Yukon River. Numerous ice jams around Dawson's main bridge into town are causing the water level to rise. One property has already been flooded. The town's emergency information officer says as more ice jams head down the river, there's a chance more properties could be next.
Areas such as Eureka, Prospector, C4 subdivision, Dredge Pond, all those areas that are around the Klondike Highway Bridge could see a huge fluctuation in the water levels. And so there are some moving parts here. It's a real dynamic situation, but we really want people to be ready to move if they have to, and to be prepared. Have your 72-hour kit prepared, have your plan for your household and yourself ready to go, because the water could rise quite quickly.
Robitaille says the river is constantly being monitored by air and on the ground. An evacuation alert remains in place for the Klondike River from the confluence to the Dempster Corner Bridge. 2 people are missing in the Kitikmeot region of Nunavut. The search for them began 8 days ago. According to the local ground search and rescue coordinator, they're thought to be somewhere between Cambridge Bay and Kuluktuk. He said the two were traveling to a cabin between the two communities to meet family.
They're very experienced individuals on the land, and they're not new to being out there. And the main individual we're looking for has traversed this route multiple times since he was a child, and he's in his 50s now. So, they're people who know the area and know the conditions, and they just haven't made contact and weren't at the location they were supposed to meet the family at.
There are 18 people searching for them by ground, and 1 helicopter and 1 more aircraft are on the way. The Whale Cove Nunavut search and rescue team was told to stand down when it wanted to help look for a missing man recently because the community was too far from the search area. Last week, Whale Cove wanted to join in the search for Jason Panika. The 21-year-old man left Baker Lake by snowmobile on April 19th. His body was found on April 22nd. They asked for a tasking number to be used for insurance and to buy fuel in Whale Cove. Nunavut Emergency Management, though, denied that request, saying Whale Cove is 400 kilometers from the search area and there was too much risk in approving the request. The government says safety, security, and well-being of all Nunavummiut, including search and rescue volunteers, factor into those decisions. Well, dozens of people gathered at the Nunavut Legislative Assembly yesterday, where flags flew at half-mast to mark the National Day of Mourning. Around 40 people were there. They paid their respects to those who've lost their lives while on the job. The Northern Territories Federation of Labour says the National Day of Mourning never gets any easier.
I get emotional at the podium when I speak, when I read the names. It's hard. When I flip through the book and I see people that I've known, and I know the stories of the people that are in the book, and some of them are so unbelievable.
Maya Batia's name was added to the Book of Worker Deaths. She died in August while researching Arctic climate issues in Grise Fjord. Her body has never been found.
It was a devastating loss for the community, and to this day there's grieving that's taking place, and from the community they want to see how they can reach out to the family and try and figure out what else can they do.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
Vanessa likes gymnastics. She loves soccer. She loves to ride her bike. She loves to stay at the park as long as she can. She shows me every day that she can do anything she puts her mind to. The War Amps is able to provide Vanessa with the devices and support that she needs because of the generosity of the public. Nothing will stop her. Any help that she ever needs is right there because of your generosity.
Thank you!
King Aliwaling Mulu, Pangolo, Ashak Miu, Muna, Toy Mina Daily, Takpanga, Kimuk Palilox, Mutama, Buataling, Villa Europe, Inuit, Amichalu along water.
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie, wild fashion trends, showbiz, and cancel culture. Join me, Alameen Abdul Mahmood, for Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny, can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy, chilling but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy.
Nunavut's first long-term continuous care home is expected to open in a couple of months. And when it does, fewer elders will be sent south away from their loved ones. The CBC's TJ Deer reports.
Bernard Anoui lives at the Embassy West Senior Living Retirement Home in Ottawa. His younger brother, Eric, says there was no option for him to stay in Nunavut, and their separation has been tough.
Obviously, it's been difficult. Being so far away from each other, and we're not there in person, or he's not home in Nunavut.
Eric says Inuit living there have to deal with loneliness, but that could change in a couple of months. This new long-term care center is expected to open in Rankin Inlet by the end of June. It will have space to house 24 elders. That's according to David Kakuktinuk, the president and CEO of Saku Investments Corporation.
We were very pleased to hear that we were the front runners quite a few months back, and it's a place we truly want to be.
Elder care in Nunavut is based on each person's needs. The only facility that provides 24-hour care for Nunavut elders is Embassy West. The new home is expected to provide the same care. It'll be operated between Saku and Embassy West. Kakuktinuk says Inuit values and prioritizing hiring Inuit employees are important.
By corporate ownership and relationships, we're accountable to many layers of boards that are 100% Inuit and represent very strongly the interest of the demographics that we're going to be serving.
Health Minister John Main will be in Rankin Inlet tomorrow for a formal contract signing ceremony at the new facility. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
In Whitehorse, a new housing project is set to bring 45 new affordable units to the market. The Yukon Housing Corporation hosted a forum last week where people could learn more about the building that's coming to their neighborhood. The aim is to maximize the number of units that can be added to the lot and build with energy efficiency in mind. Downtown residents say they're impressed. Their only note, get more projects like this off the ground fast.
I hope it goes to schedule. We need more. If the funding can be found, people are really hurting, looking for housing in this town, and this will help, but it's not the complete answer.
Construction is set to start later this spring, and the building is expected to be ready for residents in the fall of 2025. Renewable energy experts in the NWT say the government can do more to electrify its fleet. The territory has more than 1,000 vehicles across its departments, and as the CBC's Leni Lambrink tells us, only a small fraction of those are hybrid electric.
The territory has 1,088 vehicles in all. More than 80% of them are powered with gas, 168 rely on diesel, and 8 are hybrids.
Which is some progress, because I remember a few years ago they had 2, but that still leaves over 1,000 that could be hybrids or plug-in hybrids or electric.
The NWT government is considering an electric vehicle procurement policy. Robinson, who has a handful of electric bikes himself, has some ideas as to what that could look like.
Some places have policy where they require that the vehicle that is used is the most efficient that's available in that category, so that if they're buying pickup trucks, they should buy the most efficient hybrid pickup truck that they can get, or if they only need a vehicle for moving people around, they should be looking at a plug-in hybrid or whatever is efficient in that category. And if that's a policy that's in place, they'll probably end up with a lot more than just 8 in their fleet in a few years.
A transportation analyst at a renewable energy think tank says there are things to consider before making the switch.
Vehicles that are traveling longer distances are going to be harder to electrify, whereas if you have a lot of fleet vehicles that are traveling relatively short distances, then maybe you don't need to have that kind of vast charging infrastructure network to electrify those.
McBain says dwell time is another consideration. Does a vehicle come back to the same place every night? If so, it might be easier to charge it up again.
A school bus, for example, that could run on electric all the time, especially in places like Hay River, Fort Smith, Yellowknife that have hydroelectricity. That would be a great way to reduce emissions and cost as well for operating those things.
Transportation accounted for 63% of the NWT's greenhouse gas emissions in 2021. Heavy-duty diesel vehicles generated more of those emissions than aviation did. It's unclear when the territory will have finished assessing an EV procurement policy. Infrastructure Minister Caroline Wozniak said in an email she's looking forward to reviewing its findings. She says it's an area where technology is advancing quickly and funding opportunities are becoming more readily available. The federal government says it's phasing out the production of gas-powered vehicles by 2035. Leni Lambrink, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Well, some of Nunavut's sharpest trade workers were showcasing their skills this weekend. Dozens of youth took part in the annual Skills Canada Nunavut competition at Inukjuak High School. Among them was Rosemary Alivatuk. The hairdresser hopes to be the first to open a hair salon in her hometown of Panakto.
I need a couple years of experience to fully open a salon, so hopefully I'll keep going.
While Alivatuk was showing off her hairstyling skills, local student and carpenter Alison McCrory Noah was busy building a doghouse. She says these types of competitions are important for young girls and women.
Because it shows young girls that if they want to do things like this, if they don't want to work at an office, they can, and they can build houses, and they can do a lot of other trades as well.
The winners from this territorial event will move on to the national competition in May in Quebec City. And the Iqaluit Blizzards under-18 hockey girls team is basking in the glory of its first league tournament victory. The team brought home gold from the 40th Canada Girls Hockey Association House League tournament in Ottawa last month. The CBC's Samuel Watt has more.
A drum roll from the Iqaluit Blizzards as the coaches hoisted a banner in their home rink on Friday, proclaiming the team's first league tournament win.
It was just crazy, and just knowing we were going to come back home with gold is crazy. Crazy.
The winning game against the Gatineau Nitro put a big smile on Evelyn Noah's face. She and her team beat 22 teams to earn the title.
It's a really big deal, especially coming from here. We don't get to play as a team playing games very often. It's just practices, whereas the other girls down south, their teams, they're playing in games and tournaments every weekend.
This tournament could be Letia Ixia's last with the team as she prepares to head off to university in PEI. So a win means a lot to her, she says, as she looks back at the first time she picked up a hockey stick as a 10-year-old.
I was super scared of all the older girls, but I quickly grown closer to everyone and loved the sport. Each and every year I've grown to love it more and more.
Coach Lauren Perrin says all the players have grown as individuals and as a team.
This group of girls, they made me fall in love with hockey all over again in a new aspect, a new lens. So I owe a lot to them. And
the Iqaluit Blizzards did their coaches and many in Nunavut proud. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Well, when I saw what the temperature is going to be in Fort Liard tomorrow, I looked up what their average for this time of year is, and it's 13 degrees, so 16, not that far off. But by the end of the week, that community could see temperatures close to 20 degrees above zero. Quite the warm start to spring. Well, that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always visit our website, cbc.ca/north. Thanks for watching. I'm Shannon Scott. Tomorrow night, Northbeat will be on right after Igalak because of hockey, 6:30 Eastern, 4:30 Mountain, and 3:30 Yukon time. See you then.
so good.
Please be careful.
I'm excited, dude. Me too. We're back with Crime Scene Kitchen. It's a bold choice.
Yes, honey.